just take a quick look at crowdfunding from the 20,000-foot view. So crowdfunding is a subsection of a category we called crowdsourcing. It's reaching out into the crowd for other resources, expertise, skill sets that you don't have, that can then be lent to your project to have that succeed. So crowdfunding is a subset of that. And now with the internet and social media and the way that we can access communities globally, you take that same concept, you have a project idea, you have a nonprofit, you have a small business, whatever it is that needs funding, you put together your pitch and you set that pitch off out in the world, and the crowd can help you by microfinancing your project. So you can find pledgers who pledge $1, $5, $10, but those $5 and $10 pledges add up. You know, if you get 1,000 people, all of a sudden you have $5,000 that you didn't have before for your project. So that's an attractive piece of the crowdfunding. The evolution of crowdfunding has gone from microfinance to microlending, peer-to-peer lending, and now we have crowdfunding. In the microfinance arena, you might think of organizations like Kiva, which is a crowdfunding tool. So some of the nuts and bolts of crowdfunding, there are pros and cons to crowdfunding. The pros are multiple. One is it's a great marketing tool. And not only is it a great marketing tool, it's a great tool for refining and focusing your business or project vision. The pitches that happen on pledge sites in particular, actually on any of the crowdfunding sites, they need to be clear, succinct, and understandable. It also provides an amazing forum for feedback on your project, and that is one of those key marketing elements that a lot of small businesses, artists, etc., sort of forget about, which is market testing, essentially. So you find out who's interested in what your project or product is. You discover who is really interested in what you're doing or not interested, and then you can start to research other markets or find other people who are interested in what you have. So crowdfunding really offers a no-cost way, other than time and the investment of your energies, a no-cost way in testing your product, testing your art form, testing your ideas out in the world. And it's inexpensive, an inexpensive way to raise funds from the perspective of it really is about sweat equity. The platforms are free. They don't take their cut until you've reached your goal. And so what that essentially means is that you are you're doing the writing, the copywriting, you're designing your stuff, and all of that you're doing on your own. The cons are, well, we used to say that you were limited on the amount of funding you can raise, but there you are and you aren't, in a sense. We've seen some projects, raise in excess of $20 million on crowdfunding at this point. So you're not limited from that perspective. However, the average amount of money that is raised on crowdfunding isn't at that rate. So if you're looking to raise $2,000, $3,000, $5,000, $7,000 for an art project, it's doable. If you're thinking that you're going to go out and raise $1 million for a project, don't plan on it. And we'll talk about that in a bit too. It does expose your project to the public. So if you've got an invention that improves the experience of bicycling, for example, you want to be sure that before you put your pitch online that you have taken all of the necessary precautions to protect your idea. So just be aware that when you do launch, if you're launching a new invention, if it's something that has proprietary value for you, you just want to be careful as to when you launch your campaign. I would never suggest that you not launch it if crowdfunding is a viable avenue for you, but you do want to protect your ideas before you put this out there. Funds may be subject to securities regulation. Now that really is relating to more of the business funding that's happening. Pledge sites, not so much, but you are liable for taxes on it. This is income for you, so you need to plan for that as well. So those are just some of the pros and cons, and I'm sure if you took some time and you thought about it for yourself, you'd find some pros and cons that were specific to you and your project. There are so many platforms available right now all over the world, not just the United States. Although the US is still the leader in crowdfunding, Europe is catching up, and China probably not too long from now will be right up there in terms of really making a gain in the crowdfunding arena. So you've heard about Kickstarter, Indiegogo. There's some smaller ones you haven't heard of, like Crowd Supply, which is a Portland, Oregon-based organization that is attempting to address the gap between someone successfully funds their project goal and then needs to deliver not just the pledge items, but deliver their product. So Crowd Supply is offering a service that fills that gap and then takes people actually into an e-commerce world, because that's where their expertise lies. So they can set up manufacturing relationships, distribution relationships, etc., with you on your behalf. So they're bringing that expertise in. And then some, like Fans Next Door, is purely music. So this is for small indie bands looking for ways of funding music projects. Fundable is a loan and equity fundraising site. So, and we're not going to get deep into that in this particular webinar, but at a later webinar we'll cover those kinds of platforms strictly. Today we're just doing pledge. Okay, look at some statistics. Kickstarter. This is the 1,000-pound gorilla in the room. Kickstarter still dominates the crowdfunding arena and has contributed to the well over $2 billion that has been raised just this year in crowdfunding campaigns. That's an amazing figure, over $2 billion raised this year, 2014. Kickstarter is really focused on the individual. So if you are an inventor, an artist, a musician, bands do well, films do well on Kickstarter, but it really is about that individual who is passionate about their product, their invention, their film, and wanting to really have that project take off. Indiegogo started at the Sundance Film Festival, and Indiegogo tends to play well with teams and groups. Their model is different from Kickstarter in that Indiegogo has partnered with other organizations like Fractured Atlas, which is the country's largest arts advocacy group. And together, Indiegogo with these amazing groups work with individual artists, teams of artists, communities of people to raise funds for their community projects. That's pretty amazing. And then Fundable, I spoke about it a little earlier. It does have rewards-based, pledge-based platform, but it really is embracing the equity-based crowdfunding options, and that's where people invest in your company. So in 2011, it was a $1.5 billion industry. 2013, 5.1. So 2014, it's gone even beyond that. That's just, it just astounds me. There were over 1 million crowdfunding campaigns that were successful in 2012. The statistics grow exponentially. So we're in the early stages of the crowdfunding industry, so we're seeing just massive growth in all of these numbers since 2012. 63% of the crowdfunding platforms use PayPal as their payment method. However, Kickstarter, the largest, uses Amazon Payments, which is a little more complex than the PayPal version. And then there's also WePay as another financing platform, and there's many others out there. 536 active crowdfunding websites in 2012. It's probably doubled in that time. And North America still contributes around 60%, even in 2014, and Europe at 35%. So there's been a lot of money pledged, a lot of people pledging. This is a revolution in the everyday average person being able to impact what's happening in their lives, in their friends' lives, in their communities, in a way that hasn't been available before. So if you look at these numbers and you translate the little people into hundreds of thousands of people per person there, it really is amazing how we have used crowdfunding as a way of starting to shift and change our world. Mark says, take a breath and say hi to everybody. Hi, here. Let me show you my face, and I will say hi. I think I'll say hi. Hi, everybody. Okay. And Gary is on now. I'm going to just take a break in the presentation, and I'm going to introduce Gary. So Gary, I'm going to take you off mute. Mark, can you take him off? Oh, there we go. Hi, Gary.
Good morning.
So would you just introduce yourself to the people watching and to our YouTube viewers later? Tell them who you are. I invited you on today as a novelist, but I'd also like you to talk a little bit about your organization, YMAW.
Great.
So then we can, so with you as my guinea pig today, we can handle two fronts. One is the individual looking for crowdfunding support, and then a person who is part of an organization for whom crowdfunding could potentially be a huge benefit. So go ahead. Hello.
Yeah. Gary R. Moor, a science fiction and fantasy author, and Adrienne's former husband. And I live up here in Portland, and got 2 books that are completed and published through Lulu.com on-demand publishing, and working on 2 others. And YMAW, that's the Young Men's Adventure Weekend. It's rites of passage work that I volunteer for every summer. And it's actually, there's work done in California. We did a couple of them, about 4 of them actually here in Oregon. And it actually started up in Vancouver, British Columbia by a man named Brad Leslie about 23 years ago. And they haven't missed one for 10 years. And what it is, it's basically about 40 to 50 young men go out in the woods from the age of maybe 11 to 12 to 18-year-olds, and about that many men who volunteer to be on production team. And we take them through basically a program that's rites of passage. And they find out who they are and how they fit in with a group of young men. And what it's for is like uncling for a tribe. Rather than just having parents and peers, we've got these men that are actually dedicated to guiding young men into adulthood, and for them to discover what it is to be a man and what's available for them. And so it gives them an idea that, who they think they have to be as a man, that's not necessarily so. They can create who they are. It's very empowering. It's powerful, powerful work. I think it's very important. So that's what I do every summer. And it's actually a direct result of my writing, because that's what my writing is about. It's rites of passage and transformation, and that's for everyone. I just happen to be doing it for young men right now on the pointy end of the sword.
Awesome. So a little later in the presentation, or after after I go through the slide deck, I'm going to go through the workbook, which you're familiar with, and we'll just do exercises out of the workbook with Gary so you can get a sense of how to use that tool. It's a free tool that you download off the Money for Something website. And then, of course, after the presentation, there's going to be other tools that I'm gifting to you to help you start to build your marketing campaign. Because one of the misnomers around crowdfunding is that you put it up and they will come. That doesn't actually work that way. Crowdfunding is, it seems like a simple animal, but it's a complex creature that puts on a simple face. In other words, it's a great opportunity for market testing. It's a great opportunity for getting your marketing messaging focused and clear. And it demands that you think long term now. We're out of that Wild West stage and we've moved into really the considered thoughtful planning of how do you use this powerful, powerful tool um, to grow your business, to expand your projects and ideas, and to really move things from you and your desk out into the world where it's going to make a difference. Oh, and this deck in PDF format will also be available to you as a download, so don't worry about scratching out notes about what's on the deck because you will have this entire PowerPoint deck as a download available to you after the webinar. So crowdfunding, how it works. The first stage of crowdfunding is always, always, always research. And what you're researching are a couple of things. The very first thing that you're looking at is which of the crowdfunding sites is best for me and my project. Um, People tend to knee-jerk to Kickstarter and Indiegogo as their sites of choice. And the reality is there are sites out there that are niche sites that could be much more powerful for you because there's a community that's wrapped around that niche. So like Fans Next Door, the whole purpose behind that site is about getting new music out into the world and getting bands to be able to produce it in a way that is beautiful and satisfying to them. And so that fan base that already exists on Fans Next Door is maybe a much better platform for you to launch your campaign on than Kickstarter. There's also, say if you're a visual artist and you're looking for a sustainable ongoing model where you want to have, the word is escaping me, but you want to have patrons who are supporting you on a regular basis, say like on a month-to-month basis. There is a crowdfunding platform called Patreon that is specifically designed. Initially, it was for webcasters, people with broadcast shows on the internet. It's expanded to folks like me, visual artists, who would love to have patrons supporting me on a month-to-month basis, and then in exchange, they'll get whatever product it is. It could be, like in the case of a broadcaster or a magazine publisher, it would be access to that premium ongoing content. In the case of me as a visual artist, I would guarantee a piece of artwork every quarter or every half year or every year, depending on the amount of the pledge and what it is that my patron is looking for. So there's all kinds of different sites, and you want to spend time before you launch, you want to spend time researching all of those different platforms available to you. The other thing that you're going to do, and it's not on this graph, but so write this one down, is you really want to understand where the people who would buy whatever it is that you're offering or who would benefit from what you're offering, where they go to get information about those things, and who are they? And maybe Gary, you and I can work a little on a customer profile so we can give people an experience of um, of a tool that you create that really helps you develop a really powerful marketing campaign that'll reach the market that you're intending to reach. So after you've done some of your basic research, you take a look at your project, and you create budgets because you want to set a realistic target for your campaign. One of the interesting and I think beautiful aspects of crowdfunding is the level of transparency you must practice when you're launching a campaign. Um, the more transparent you are, the more your passion is right there laid out on the line, the more successful your campaign is likely to be. And part of transparency is just letting people know what it's going to cost for you to do the project that you set out to do. Now, part of your target goal isn't just the cost of the project. So in Gary's case, it would be manufacturing and distributing novels as a novelist. It's not just those hard costs related to that, but it's also the cost of the pledge items that you're putting up in your campaign. So those things that you offer at the different dollar levels, the different donation levels. Um, and and it's easier to reach a realistic target than a bloated target. Um, and a lot of it is the perception around transparency, and a lot of it really is about you just being real regarding what it's going to take for you to achieve your goals. The third thing is creating a campaign video. Now, there are projects that do not have a video that succeeded. The percentage of those projects is 1% or less. Most of the campaigns that have succeeded, like the vast majority, have a campaign video. Now, you don't need to go to great lengths and hire a professional videographer to do your videos. It does help in some of the projects for sure. Like if you're doing a film project, your video needs to reflect the level of professionalism that's going to show up and storytelling that's going to show up in that film. But if you're a guy who is a master lock picker, and there is one of these on Kickstarter, um, all he did was he sat on a stool and talked about what he invented, the lock picking tools that he invented, and it was absolutely captivating. Um, so the video doesn't need to be expensive to produce. It doesn't need to be super high quality from a production standpoint, but it does need to tell your story clearly and succinctly and passionately. So those are the key elements, is the the clear, succinct, passionate aspects of your video. Offering rewards. So when I'm talking about pledge items, those are rewards. And if you think of OPB or PPS, when they're out there doing their fundraising, they always have those little packages of things. It could be a movie or it could be a T-shirt or whatever it is, at the different pledge levels. Well, the idea is the same on pledge sites like Kickstarter and Indiegogo. Um, you want the rewards, however, to not just be whatever you can gather to put on your site to give away. It's best to have your rewards be part of the story that you're telling. So again, in Gary's case, and we'll explore some of this, but things that are top of mind is he designs his own book covers and they're absolutely gorgeous. Well, having those be huge 11 by 17 or larger posters, glossy posters, as a pledge item at a certain level would be appealing to many people. Um, or even something as quirky as having his book cover be the back of a card deck of a 52 52 card deck of cards, poker deck. Those are different ways that you can have fun stuff as your rewards, but it's clearly related to the campaign. So rewards, very, very important. Um, the fifth item along the pathway is to connect with your friends and family first. Absolutely, without a doubt, your community that's there with you is the community that is going to be the first line of support for you. These folks, they love you and they want to see you succeed. And if you're practicing transparency like you are in your campaign video and campaigning and what you're doing around your project, and you're just asking without inhibition, these are the people who are going to be your first line of really getting your campaign off to a perfect start. Um, and we have ideas and suggestions around how to do that, how to cultivate um, that group of people to really empower uh, the launch of your campaign. And then finally, what they have here is post regular campaign updates. You do want to keep your supporters engaged and maintain momentum, and you want to do it from a storytelling perspective. And we'll touch on that when Gary and I are mocking um, his campaign. Uh, so on the pledge sites, there's always a place where you can post, and you want to post there because even years after a campaign has completed, people go back and they read the comments, they read your posts, etc., and you could find future investors through something that you posted and how you posted and the way that you posted. It really tells a lot about you as a project owner and how you will engage with folks in future, literally in the future. I've gone to past campaigns, read those materials, gone to their projects, see where they're at, and ended up supporting them outside of the crowdfunding platform just because what they were doing was magnificent. So everything that you do in relation to your campaign needs to move the story forward of what you're up to, why you're up to it, what this means to you and to the communities that what you're doing will impact. And that includes readers. Okay, two big things. You need a project or a business that inspires you. So if you're not inspired, it will be difficult to inspire others around what you're up to. In our last call, we had Tom Rooney, who is the executive director of the Aperture Project, be our guinea pig. He was our Gary in the last call, and um, he it took him years to launch the Aperture Project, but it was something that was always there for him. It was an unrealized passion for years and years and years. And now he's just in the last 12 months, he's formed a board of directors, launched the nonprofit, and has this full-blown, amazing project that's happening. And crowdfunding for him and for his organization is going to prove, I think, will prove very beneficial, simply because he is so passionate, he's so articulate about his project and his new nonprofit that is giving legs to his ideas around how he can impact the lives of children across the globe. The other thing you need is a marketing plan that you will implement. So if you put together the beautiful, gorgeous, complicated marketing plan that looks great on paper, but you're unwilling to implement, that's not going to help you. So we want to talk today a little bit about what a marketing plan could look like in this case for Gary, and you need to apply what you hear in a conversation with Gary, apply that to your situation, your project, your nonprofit, your company, and see what is really going to call you forward in terms of marketing. And we'll explore that a little later. But these are two things that you absolutely must have before you consider going into a crowdfunding situation. Why? Because a crowdfunding campaign is intense, it is tedious, it is work, and it demands your full attention and commitment. So love what you're pitching. 3 must-have elements. To succeed, your campaign must have 3 things. if you have the expectation that you could just put together a pitch online, launch it, and it'll be successful, most often that's not going to happen. We we've been working with crowdfunding campaigns for 4 years now, somewhere in that arena, and you really want to give yourself time to do a really good job with your campaign. We recommend 4 to 6 months. Some people take 12 months, a whole year before they launch their campaign. Um, I've seen people do it in 2 and 3 months, but really give yourself 4 to 6 months so it's not. Um, so first, you're doing the pre-production work that you need to do to the nth degree, so it's ready to go. Um, and so you can really think through, how does this fit in the bigger picture? Because crowdfunding is a piece of a bigger picture. It's not the whole picture itself. Typically, people who are running campaigns are people who want to have an ongoing experience inside of the domain that they're practicing. If they're a musician, they want an ongoing career. They want to release several albums. They would love to play in the best venues across the world. So that's a big picture that this is a piece of. In Gary's case, he's a novelist. He can't help himself. He has to write these novels. And what will help Gary continue to write the novels and do it in a way that is going to be deeply satisfying is for him to sell the books. So he has a reader community that is supporting him in doing what he wants to do. So you want to consider, where does this campaign sit in the bigger picture of what I'm up to, and how can I make it be the best possible um, campaign from the perspective not just of raising the funds, but of meeting many goals that are inherent in a campaign, whether you're aware of them or not, but you'll be aware of them today. The second must-have element is a compelling story. Again, it's about your passion, and your passion will translate into people's inspiration. So when you are being authentic, you are grounded in what just inspires you about what you're up to. That will communicate to people, even through your video, believe it or not. Um, and the third element is having a strong core base of supporters and a growing fan base. And there really is no free ride in crowdfunding. You're the shepherd of your own crowd. So the crowd is out there. And if you've had in the past, like, this relationship with advertising and marketing like it's an evil and rotten thing, I'm going to ask you to transform that relationship, because it really is, when done authentically, done transparently, it is the best shepherd's tools out there. It's your favorite dog and your favorite staff that you need to bring the herd to you. So advertising and marketing really becomes those amazing tools that draw people to you, because the kind of marketing that we're looking at is not going to be push marketing. We really are talking about relationship marketing when it comes to crowdfunding, and you can create relationships with people halfway around the world without ever having met them, simply by being authentic and staying true to the passion that drives you in your project. Um, it may seem like there are overnight successes in crowdfunding, but in truth, there are not. The people who succeed in crowdfunding, by and large, have been engaged in their passion for years, some people decades. Um, there's a couple campaigns that are really cute that were quote unquote overnight successes, but by and large, 99.9% of the campaigns that succeed because, or as an aspect, not because, but as an aspect of a person's passion, which almost always can last a lifetime, or it comes from a lifetime of being passionate about something. And the last sentence of that slide is really important. The more marketing and relationship building you do before the campaign goes live, the better your odds for succeeding. And we'll talk about what that means when we're in the conversation with Gary. This pretty much sums up visually everything that you need to address when you're building your campaign. Storytelling, again, a huge component of how you create success with crowdfunding. Your social network, and that starts at home. Your social network is all of those people and relationships out in the world that you're creating, all those people that love you. The reward system, people love to get something for their money. So let's give them stuff that's meaningful to you and to them. And then engaging them through those incentives and your video, and also your posts and many of the other marketing tools that we'll talk about. Um, so this really sums up visually what it takes to create a successful campaign. Okay, we're going to go over a couple case studies. I'm going to read some notes here quick, so talk amongst yourselves for just a moment. Well, some of them have more than, some folks have guests in the room with them, so. Okay, so I'm going to have to learn how to use the Q&A tool, but we'll get to that in a moment. Okay, so this handsome gentleman is Nikola Tesla, and until this campaign launched on Indiegogo, Kickstarter was the undisputed champion of $1 million or more campaigns. And it was thought amongst many of us who were passionate about crowdfunding that Indiegogo, which was a more community-oriented platform, would never be able to reach those kinds of campaign heights. And this particular project first blew that idea completely out of the water. This campaign raised millions of dollars for a nonprofit project that is so obscure, seems so obscure, and addresses the passion of a small community, but it's become like a global phenomenon. This particular campaign. So Nikola Tesla, competitor to Thomas Edison in the old days, brilliant man, brilliant ideas, didn't have the capitalists in his back pocket like Edison did. So his fans, his current day fans, were bound and determined to change the relationship that the world had with Tesla. So there's this fellow who is a cartoonist online who has well over 1 million rabid fans on his website. He became the biggest fan of this particular project, which was to buy Tesla's old laboratory and the property at Wardenclyffe Tower and turn it into a museum. There was a threat from a developer to purchase the land, tear down his laboratory, and build it up condominiums or something like that. And this group of rabid Tesla fans just would not have it. And the Oatmeal was one of those folks that was passionate about that not happening. And so they put together this mind-blowing campaign on Indiegogo, and the day that they launched and I saw that they were trying to reach $850,000, I was one of those people that was like, there's just no way. And they did it. They exceeded their goal. And a lot of the elements of the campaign are elements you want to emulate. So let's go back here. The Oatmeal had published several things about Nikola Tesla on his in his cartoons online. And so the illustrations that he used in this campaign, that he lent to this campaign, were the same. So the fan base that was his fan base were already familiar with the look and feel, and the type of humor and the way that the Oatmeal wrote, which is the voice of the campaign. Um, so everything here, they tried to relate, like the perks, the pledge items, to just quirky things about Tesla. Tesla loves the number 3, so you'll see a lot of 333 things and etc. in the campaign. Um, and many of the pledge items, almost all of them, relate to Tesla, whether it's the t-shirt, a miniature Tesla coil, geek booklet, etc. The perks were relevant. They were part of the story, and they made the story. This was the Oatmeal's huge homage to Nikola Tesla on his site, and so the Oatmeal, million plus fans, love everything he publishes. Built this rabid fan base around Tesla through his comics. It's truly amazing. So when he launched the campaign with the nonprofit, they had already thought through the campaign. They knew how they were going to run the campaign. They had he had already executed many of the cartoons and some of the imagery related to the campaign. All of that was done before they even launched. The way that he presented the campaign was very entertaining. It was compelling, and he's definitely an audacious person, so that all helped. And when he said go, his fans went. Truly amazing. This campaign is a local Portland artist, Hillary Pfeiffer. She actually ran a series of campaigns over time, and so this is a sustainability conversation. So whereas the Tesla campaign is about one idea, uh, a single goal that led into an ongoing story offline, not in a crowdfunding platform, but they've raised millions and millions and millions of dollars as a result of that campaign, away from a crowdfunding platforms. Hillary uses the crowdfunding platform to ongoingly create income for herself. And so I'd known Hillary before, from her artwork, someone that I admire tremendously as a fellow artist. She's very successful, business savvy, the whole 9 yards. She was running her business successfully before crowdfunding happened, but after she got a hold of Kickstarter, found out about it, and started to campaign on it, she started creating an ongoing series of projects. And so you'll see in the piece where her image is Hillary Pfeiffer, she's run 5 campaigns over a few years on Kickstarter, and all of them have been successful. Every one of them has funded. And I stumbled across her tarot card deck, I think it was last year. Is that 2013? Yeah, last year. And I was just blown away by the level of professionalism, the amount of work that had gone into the campaign, and the thought. It was so clear that she was designing something. This was a project. It was it had a beginning, a middle, and an end. At the end, you got a card deck with her beautiful art on it, among many, many other items. And it was part of a bigger umbrella of projects that she was doing. And you got the feel of that over the time of the campaign. She didn't dump it all out there at once. She launched the campaign specific and focused on the card deck and the art related to the card deck, and then she started sharing with her fan base. This is the storytelling aspect of it. Sharing about the exploration of fulfilling on this project, as well as what else was coming up. And so you've got this amazing ongoing tale over 30 days of what Hillary was up to as it related to Bunny with a tool belt, but beyond that. Um, and her readership went up, number of folks on her page reading her newsletters, all of that stuff increased tremendously out of her thoughtful, ongoing implementation of crowdfunding campaigns on Kickstarter. She has great products. She's she's really great at relationship marketing. She's always just Hillary, and she has a commitment to planning, um, which is key in any business. And I suggest that you take a look at her campaign. I'll post these links to these campaigns on the thank you page after the webinar. And so here's just a roundup of her campaigns and how much she's raised in the campaign. So now and these are typical amounts that you'll raise in a campaign as an individual with an individual project. So cumulatively, it doesn't seem like it's all that much, maybe 23.5, maybe 50,000 over 3 years in crowdfunding campaigns. But where Hillary is a master is she leveraged what she did online in these Kickstarter campaigns, and she turned that into uh, an even more thriving business outside. So in the way that the Tesla people leveraged their success on Indiegogo in garnering other monies and expanding their project outside of the crowdfunding platform. Hillary does that too, but she has an ongoing interconnected version of that. She continues to use the crowdfunding platform on Kickstarter because she has a huge fan base on the Kickstarter platform. So she didn't abandon it. Brilliant, absolutely brilliant. So we can estimate, I haven't talked to her about how much she's made. I just haven't had the courage to ask her, how much have you made as a result of this? But you could guess if she made 50,000 off the campaign since 2010, and she's a smart marketer and she's leveraged that, you can just imagine how much she's bringing in as a visual artist using these tools. Really extraordinary. I'll just let your mind go crazy on that one. Equity and debt-based, we're really not going to cover this, but I do want to suggest that as you're building your business, and this applies to Gary and his novels and any artist in their business, any nonprofit who's building their business, you want to consider over time that an equity-based funding platform or a debt-based funding platform might be a good next step for expanding your business. So rather than going to a bank or finding funding from an individual locally, you can go onto these platforms and have people invest in your company in smaller amounts, so you have more people who are invested in your success, more people who are pledging to your future and the expansion of your business, and the risk is distributed across a broader number of people, which makes it easier to invest in companies that maybe otherwise would not be able to get, say, a bank loan, for example, or attract a high profile investor. This is a tool that you can use along the way, even in conjunction with pledge-based crowdfunding as part of your ongoing business planning. We're not going to talk about the Jobs Act today. And here are the credits. So we're at the end of our presentation. This is a workbook that we're going to go through with Gary now. And oh, this is the next presentation, October 25th. We haven't actually scheduled the next 2-hour webinar, but I imagine it's going to be within the next 4 weeks. And we'll pick the topic sometime later. And we'll let everybody know. Make sure you're on the mailing list. If you're not, let's get you on the mailing list so you're aware of upcoming webinars. In January, on January 3rd, we're going to have our 6-week e-workshop. So it will also be delivered online. So wherever you are in the world, you'll be able to participate in this workshop. 5 sessions over 6 weeks. It's an intense preparation for you to put together your campaign. So over that time, really what's going to happen out of that workshop is you're going to walk out of there with a complete structure. You'll need to flesh out some things, do some copywriting, perhaps pull together some images, but you will have your campaign completely mapped out. You'll know what it is you're going to say, how are you going to say it, what platform you're going to use. You'll have researched bloggers that are appropriate for your field that you're going to be campaigning around. You'll have the whole tamale. The whole structure will be there for you. So then all there will be left to do is for you and your teams to create all of the remaining assets that you weren't able to create over those 5 sessions and pick a date when you're going to launch, and then launch. So that's a pretty amazing opportunity. The course itself costs $525, and you can make 3 payments, 3 equal payments, leading up to January 3rd, if that helps you. I think that's it for this piece of it. So January 3rd is when that kicks off, 2015. Thank you. Okay, Gary. So I'm going to select Craig's question, which is looking at the rapid explosion of crowdfunding. Do you think it will peak or has peaked and that it will decline as a way to finance projects? My opinion is that we are at the very beginning of the explosion of crowdfunding, that we're only just beginning to understand how to harness these platforms. So I think we're in for a magnificent wild ride for the next 5 years as the different platforms launch all over the world, and we discover new ways of using crowdfunding to finance projects. In terms of equity and debt financing in the United States, we can only now handle those things, and because the Jobs Act has just been fully implemented. So in terms of debt and equity financing, we're only just starting to do that kind of crowdfunding financing. So pledge financing, Kickstarter, Indiegogo, that is starting to, I'd say it's almost in its teenage years, but it's certainly not mature yet. And equity and debt financing is at an infant stage. I think it's going to be 3-4 years before we figure out all of the ins and outs of that kind of crowdfunding, the implications of that, and then how to best leverage all of these over time. I think that we're just at the very beginning of this whole thing. Let's see. This one's for you, Gary. Rebecca says, WIMA is an awesome program. I can see the value of your work, especially the rite of passage impact. Awesome. And Craig says his brother did a program like that, Outward Bound. He thought it was called. So there's a resource for you, Gary, Outward Bound. And Patreon is spelled Patreon. Patreon. All right, so I'm saying hi to Bob McGurry, Rebecca Brewis, and Craig Addy, and I think we have a couple more viewers, but I don't know where they are. Okay, so Gary.
There we go.
There we go. Excellent.
Roll for that.
So before we dive into the workbook, what'd you get out of what was presented so far? What have you heard for yourself?
Oh, me?
Yeah, you.
Actually, well, the biggest thing is that I got was out of the whole discussion is be successful as a way of being rather than going at the creating a campaign in order to be successful. Like when I got there's really nothing that I can do that's going to make me successful. What's required is me being successful right now, and that is where I'll be inspired to have a campaign that works.
Okay, so being successful, so a way of being. What does that mean to you then? What do you see, like standing and being successful? What is opening up for you around crowdfunding that wasn't there before?
Well, I saw crowdfunding as a way to increase my fan base, and make me popular out there with people, rather than actually what it's for is, provide money for a campaign that inspires me. And just, I don't, never got that until just now. But it's actually a tool to use to forward what I'm up to. And yeah, like
Awesome.
have the fan base and the relationship already built, and create that. I mean, I don't know, it just, now it makes perfect sense. I can see myself creating a fan base and having that actually work, and then launch a campaign based on the people that are in my fan base. And the main thing is like seeing myself as being a successful writer right now, rather than something that may happen in the future if I do the right thing.
Right.
And that's a
Okay.
that's a way to build a fan base, is to project myself as a successful writer. I am a successful writer, and be that person.
So, as a successful writer, you have 2 completed novels under your belt.
Mm-hmm.
You're a science fiction writer. So, why don't you share with us what the vision is of your novels and what your mission is?
So my biggest, greatest, like underlying mission and vision is to tell great stories that people love, that they just get really involved in the characters, and that they're get so involved that they're actually, when they're done, it's kind of a ritual event that they went through, and the reader is a different person at the end of the story. That's the kind of stories that I write. And then on top of that is my mission in life that I've created for myself. It's like the characters in the Lord of the Rings trilogy, in the movie in particular, that each one of them contributed their little bit to the mission of destroying Sauron, or defeating Sauron, and not having Middle Earth go into darkness. And if any one of them had not succeeded at their little particular act that they did, Middle Earth would have gone into darkness. So I have it that my little bit can really make a difference for humanity, and that we can evolve, intentionally evolve, into a race that takes care of itself and takes care of our planet, which is a very simple thing and something that we just not quite doing right now. What else did you add?
That's awesome. And we've, so I'm also Gary's coach, and we've worked on you having your elevator pitch. Why don't you share that with folks?
Ah, bring it up. Stand
So
by.
why I'm asking
What?
him to do this is that these elements, like remember I said that clarity and transparency are 2 really important elements of any crowdfunding campaign. Um, so your elevator pitch, which, if you're in business, you've heard about elevator pitches, etc. think about them as that one line sentence that sums up what you're about or what your novels are about. And that's what he's worked on. So, what is your elevator pitch?
Okay. I write science fiction and fantasy stories that not only entertain, but expand what's possible in your life. They are intimate and personal, character-driven stories with action, adventure, mystery, violence, and romance. They're not nice stories, not safe or quick reads. They may demand your emotional involvement, stir you up, sometimes make you uncomfortable. These are stories of personal evolution and transformation where at the end the surviving main character experiences a new world from the one in which they started. You explore with the characters new territory, inquiring into deeper, more complex questions where you may expand what is possible in your life. Reading one of my stories can become a ritual journey where you may not be the same person as when you started.
Awesome. So, you folks out there, um, anybody who's watching, our viewers, what did you hear in what he said? Just type it into the Q&A box. Because I'd be interested in what you heard. All right. So, Gary, what what do you think you want to run a campaign for? Like, what is your project, your concept?
Well, now I'm looking at, well, it's to be financially workable as a writer.
Okay, so what does that look like to you? Are you looking for a patron who is supporting you over time? Um, are you to sell books at a certain level? What are you looking at?
Actually, that's actually not accurate. Not sure how to. So here it is. What I was thinking is hiring a staff, like a full-time staff. So I have a professional marketer, I have a clerical person, and an editor to take care of all the where I'm spending 2/3 of my time. Have them, do that work, and then I do the writing and run the company.
Got it. So of the platforms that you know about, which do you think you would be working on?
Indiegogo, I think.
Okay, and what is it about Indiegogo that you think applies to this?
I don't know. It seems more personable, more for individuals rather than an object or or a piece of music or a particular invention.
Got it. That's great. That's great. And I talked about Patreon earlier. Is that something that you would that you'll investigate?
Yeah,
Does it sound interesting?
yeah. Oh, and then the
Okay.
other thing. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
Oh, I was saying another idea that arose for me is Athena Blissquest and her publishing company called Blissquest, and what she would provide as a successful publishing company is exactly what I'm looking for. That if she was successful at her uh, campaign, then I'd have exactly what I was looking for, and have an editor, and a marketing person, and all
Got it. Okay. All right. So ideally, whether it's Athena and her publishing company, or you were able to assemble a team that you would pay,
that. Oh,
that's
and to be clear on that is that she would be the team. I'd team up with her, and suspect her campaign's not going to succeed this time around.
okay. And hopefully she runs it again. There,
She will. I'm sure she will.
yeah.
But that's what I mean.
Never
Team
give
up
up.
with her.
So yeah, one of the things about crowdfunding is if you don't succeed on your first campaign, don't quit. There are many, many, many campaigners out there in the world who have launched a campaign and for whatever reason it didn't work. Either the marketing planning didn't happen, the pledge level that you were requesting were erratic or too high, your project budget didn't make sense, whatever it was, there's things to learn from the failure that you can then go back, especially now that there are so many tools, not just what we're offering through Money for Something, but there's a whole bunch of tools out there to help you craft successful campaigns, especially from a DIY perspective. Tear apart why it didn't succeed, address those gaps, and then relaunch. So don't give up on crowdfunding just because you may not have succeeded the first time you tried it. So we'll make sure Athena hears that. Okay, so Craig answered my question. What he said, Gary, is that he heard a bridge to what is available for him in what he is creating and an invitation to support you in making that possible. I think I paraphrased that correctly. Specifically, what he wrote was, I heard a bridge to what is available for me. Okay, let me just read what he wrote. I heard a bridge to what is available for me and what he is creating and an invitation to support him in making that possible.
Yeah, cool.
So there you go. Craig is a new fan. Okay, so let's talk specifically about putting together a campaign. Let me see. I'm getting confused here. Just a moment. I'm going to put up the workbook, Gary, so you and I won't be seen, but the workbook will be. And we're just going to go through this step by step. Can you see the workbook?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So let's go to the basics. So in brainstorming your pitch, especially from a, whoops, you can see it. Can everyone see it? Okay, good. So let's just go through and start to work on a couple of items on this first page. So for example, thinking about a project that you're going to put on Indiegogo, what do you want to call that project? You want to be specific in your thinking, like what is getting funded first? That's to you, Gary.
An idea?
Pardon me?
Or are you asking me for an idea?
I am. So what is the project? Let's just pick a theoretical project. What is your theoretical project that you're going to launch on Indiegogo?
Well, what I was working on is what I said is hiring the staff. So yeah, the project title, working title, free at last, free at last.
Awesome. And that almost sounds like a tagline too, but what would your tagline be? Like why would people support you?
Space to expand your mind, which is the tagline from our lady Penguin.
That's their mind, and what do you get out of it?
Well, freedom to expand their minds. Yeah, my freedom to create that space.
Okay, so a space to expand your mind and
freedom to create that space.
The freedom to create a space. Categories as novels. Okay, and then all the rest of this is pretty self-explanatory, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
How about the SEO tags? I sometimes have a little trouble with that.
Okay.
Other people might.
Yeah. So
these are the things that people are going to search on, like on Google, and you'll be somewhere in there with your material. Is that right?
Yeah. So so step back from like the digital world and just think about the way that you speak about the subject, speak about your novels, the way that you think about it. Like there's key words just in the dialogue that you have with people about your books. So there's keywords and phrases. So an obvious one is science fiction,
Yeah,
right?
fiction, fantasy,
But what else is key for you?
evolution, transformation, rites of passage.
Is it RITES of passage?
Yeah, all right. Yeah.
What else?
Uh, characters?
What's that?
Characters?
What kind of characters?
um, intimate characters.
Okay, that might bring up
Well,
a
that
tricky
would bring up
kind of.
porn sites, yeah.
So now stop here for just a moment. When you get stuck on your own stuff, think about others that you'd like to emulate. So in this case, let's talk about oh my God, his name is escaping me, the author of The Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, J.R.R. Tolkien.
Yeah, Tolkien. So when you think about the characters in his book, what what kind of words come to mind? Descriptors.
Ordinary heroes.
Anything else?
No. God, blank.
Okay, so this is an area where so everybody can see that coming up with these keywords and phrases is not necessarily super simple, but we've gotten a start on it, Gary. What I suggest that you do is you sit down with one, two, three other people who have similar tastes in fiction that's similar to yours, and you already have a reader base in Portland, so I would gather a couple of those people and start brainstorming with them how they think about your work, what words come to mind for them. And some of the descriptors are like astounding, and those are you want to write everything down. So you'll be in a brainstorming session, so write everything down, and then from the grouping of ideas you'll come up with several keywords and phrases that you're going to want to use in your blog posts, in the articles that you write, in the Facebook posts, all of that stuff. And then there'll be like subsets of words that you can use. So there may be a category like the astounding and the some of those emotional phrases that you can use in the marketing copy that won't necessarily be your SEO words. Does that make sense? So
Mm-hmm.
you can have subsets of keywords that apply in different situations from a single brainstorming session. So one of the things that I neglected to say is that when you're giving yourself the 4 to 6 months to do the campaigning, at least half of that is related to doing exercises like this, where you're doing the research on the platforms, you're researching your marketplace, like where do people hang out to talk about things like your novels, where do they, if there's local bookstores, what kind of interchange and interplay happens at those bookstores between independent authors and the bookstore's customer base. Just you want to start to look at where do people congregate to learn about novels like yours? Where do they congregate to talk about the issues that you talk about? And you've already done a lot of this work, but for those of you who haven't thought about this, this is a huge part of any marketing campaign. And make no mistake, crowdfunding is marketing. It's also business development. It's also product testing, but it primarily is a marketing exercise, and it's a piece of your overarching marketing. So, do you see value, Gary, in sitting down with a community of your readers and doing this brainstorming exercise?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And how soon can you put that into place?
Well.
Because here's the other critical thing for people who are watching. It's great to have ideas, but unless it's in your calendar and being executed, the campaigns won't take off, and you won't be building the team that you want to build, because this is an opportunity, Gary, for
Mm-hmm.
you to begin building that core team around this crowdfunding campaign. So any of these things that you do in the research and planning phase, which is the first half of any campaign, or sometimes even more than half, really is about you building up that team. It's building up your ability to speak about your campaign. It's an opportunity for you to focus, let people tell you what it is that really impacts them, that inspires them. Don't try to do this by yourself. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Now I have an answer.
Okay.
Well, once my book sales campaign is rolling well, I would say within the next 2 weeks, I'll have an idea who the team is out of
Okay,
that book
awesome.
sales campaign, because I'll know who responds, and I've already got a list of people that have already helped. Like actually about 10 people that are really involved or have been involved in reading and editing and
Right. Okay.
talking on their books. So I'd say within a couple of weeks I'll have that team, and then the brainstorming for the SEO tags is usually one of the many tasks to perform for that team.
Okay. And so do you have a couple dates in mind as to when you can do that brainstorming session?
I'd say within 3 weeks.
Okay.
So then, to be realistic, having been a contractor, I'll say a month.
Okay. Awesome.
So that would be
So now you can start to
November,
see,
end of November.
okay, now you can start to see why you want to give yourself the luxury of time. One of those three critical elements, the first one being give yourself plenty of time to put these campaigns together. So you already know a couple of people who are on your team, Gary. Who are they? Name names.
Brian Yachman
Oh, Mayan.
is on my team, definitely. And
YOCHMAN.
yeah, that's it. Very good.
Okay, great. And who else is on your team?
Well, Tony Alvarez, and Rob. And I'd say Julia Goodfellow.
Okay, great. So now in the workbook, there's only 4 spaces, but obviously you want to keep building your team. And this workbook that we're using today is actually going to change dramatically by the time we get to the January workshop. I've already got 15 pages of changes that I need to make. So one of the things that you want to do when you're assigning your team, so this is something you want to write down because it's not in the workbook. So you have their names, you have their email addresses. Include a third column, which is what is their accountability? What tasks will you be asking them to be accountable for or to contribute? And you want that to be really, really clear before you have conversations with people. Now, some people like this group of folks that we've listed for Gary, he already has ongoing relationships as a novelist and author and an evolutionary thinker with these folks. So he can kind of fumble around a bit, but The clearer you are in what you're asking them to do, the better able they will be to support you and give you what they can. So if you're making a request of mine that he edits your books, it gives him an opportunity to push back and say, well, I don't have time to edit that actual copy, but what I could do is maybe edit a chapter or proofread or something. It gives you a point to begin discussing how they can contribute, because I promise you the people in your life are dying to contribute to your success. And the only thing that has been in the way, and this is my opinion, and it sounds like I'm saying it's the truth, but in my experience, the only thing I've seen get in people's way, including me, is my own opinion about myself and whether or not I'm worthy enough to be contributed to. And so by clearly defining what it is you're going to request and allowing that request to stand and allowing them to respond to you will take care of all of those fears. All right, so we're going to move on to the pitch. We've got about 17 minutes left, so we're gonna fly through some of this, Gary, but it's going to give you a beginning place where to use this workbook. And for everyone else out there, the workbook is a starting place. It's not the final destination. So you're going to want to get your notebooks out or have your laptop up and ready to go so you can brainstorm yourself and do a lot of this work away from the workbook. The more content you have to work with that you can then drill and focus down on, the better off you're going to be. Okay, Gary, project title. So what do you want to call your campaign?
But the one that's different than the first thing here?
No, it could be the same. But here's the thing. This is your project title, so this is going to be on Indiegogo. And it is your very first opportunity to attract someone's attention. So you want it to be, for example, let's build a goddamn Tesla museum. Very clear, right? So just the audacity attracts people in that they're using a swear word. Tesla is a piece that is attracting a whole group of people. Museum attracts a whole group of people. So the words that you choose for your title are significant because it's the first opportunity that people are going to get to know you is through the title of your project. So what do you think?
Build a famous author.
I'm going to have to edit that
I can
out.
move it up, but
As I said that this was G-rated, I should have.
oh, sorry.
I'm sorry, and I don't mean Gary rated.
So I just can't take him anywhere.
Okay, so that's one. What's another possible title? And you guys out there, if you've got an idea, I've got the Q&A window up. Go ahead and share some ideas with Gary. It's time to brainstorm. Because
He is blank.
okay, great. Let's move on to the next thing. So short project blurb. So in 135 characters or less, what are you asking people to do?
Okay,
What's the
to
project about?
raise enough money to hire a working staff so I can devote all my time to writing.
Why should they care?
Because my novels are going to make a difference in this world.
How do they know that?
Oh, because they're going to read them.
Okay, but before they read them, because they're not reading them yet, right?
Yeah, how do they know that?
How will they know that? You have some tools. I mean, you have some ammunition.
Well, the elevator pitch.
Okay. But what else? You've got people who've read your books, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do they have something to say about them?
Mm-hmm. Well, I love Karen's, my sister's. I've never read a book that, she said, it's a powerful, moving, and funny. Yeah, your emotions take a roller coaster ride. I've never read a book that could, what was it? Oh, could draw out each, what is it? Yeah. Oh, such strong emotions as this book did. An amazing read.
Great. So you can leverage other people's opinions, right? So
Mm-hmm.
again, this will be an opportunity to sit down with these folks and brainstorm around even your project blurb. So your key message is to raise enough money to hire a working staff so you can devote all your time to writing your novels. And the a piece of that blurb needs to be why this matters to the person reading it.
But yeah, and they'll
So
get like a great story to read, a great novel.
yeah, like this is
Novel.
something that you don't want to put down. Like one of your fans, when he got your book and he started reading it with some skepticism, as I recall, this is Zig, could
Mm-hmm.
not put that book down, and he read it from
Great.
cover to cover in a
And
single
same with
sitting.
Matt. We read that through in 2 days.
Yeah. So there's something in their experience that you can capture to put in this blurb. So you want to brainstorm around this too. So you're going to produce 500 or 600 word description, and then you're going to bring that down to 135 characters or less. So that's maybe 10 words. That's going to be compelling enough for somebody to click on that title to go see what you're up to. And maybe one thing that we can do, Gary, is work on this, and then in the thank you email I send out to the list, I'll invite people to a private Facebook, a private group that's completely just us. Like nobody will be able to see the group at all. So then maybe you and I over time can share how you develop things.
Yeah.
Like what is your blurb, so they can see what happens for you as you move along with this. And then your bio, that's something you've got already. You just want to really spruce that up
Mm-hmm.
and test it out with your focus groups so you have the most vibrant, powerful description in your bio.
It's not
And again,
necessarily.
these are short, 300
Yeah.
characters or less. That's, 25
But
words.
we include things that are germane to writing rather than just factual, this is what I did in life.
Exactly, because this is about your novels and the intention of your novels, which is to cause a clearing for transformation through literature. That's pretty amazing. Okay, the next page is on funding. So your funding goal is a combination of at least two different budgets. One of the budgets is getting, in your case, you're writing novels, but you also want to you probably want to expand the project a little to getting your books to market, right? You want people to buy the books too. So not only are they getting them on the different pledge levels, but you want to set up a system where people are consistently able to purchase your work, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that part of your intention?
Sorry, you're going to have to say the question. My mind wandered off to something else.
Well, what I said was that not only are you going to want to hire a staff, but you also like another aspect of your project is to actually get your books out to market,
Great. Okay. Right.
right? So you kind of have a you potentially could have a dual purpose. A is to have your editorial staff work with you to make sure everything's beautiful and it works well and it's out there and it's getting promoted. And B is to actually develop the marketplace and have consistent income from the sales of your books, because that's going to sustain you as well, right?
Right.
Okay, so those two items each have a project budget attached to them. So you're going to want to compile the budget of your editorial team, or whoever else is in your team. What does that budget look like for this project? The project being you finish your third novel, like you have the time and space to complete your third novel and then get all of these out to the marketplace. So those are two different budgets that are part of your funding goal. And then there's the third piece of your funding goal, which is the cost of producing and fulfilling the pledge items. So if you've got t-shirts, because I know you have a whole bunch of t-shirts designs that you can sell, the pledge level, you may have posters, you've got ebook versions of your books, like all of those different things have some cost associated to it. And so your funding goal needs to include those costs too. And then there's the hidden costs that a lot of people don't think about, which are the costs of the attorneys that you need to talk to, the tax accountants, any of those like business issues that you need consultants for, you're going to need a budget for that. So all of that becomes part of your funding goal. And in business planning, you typically have three different budgets. You have your bare bones budget that's going to get you by. You've got your uh, luxury budget, which is where you don't have to worry about a thing and everything's covered. And maybe you even have savings and health insurance. Like that's a big budget. And then there's the middle of the road budget. So you want to understand the scope of budgets as it relates to this project and um, and the fulfillment of this project. The funding duration for most projects is around 30 days. That's really optimum, 30 to 40 days. So that whole section there on funding duration and time frame around the project itself, your campaign runs 30 to 40 days. Give yourself 60 to 90 days to do the pre-campaign launch work of building your marketing plan, um, um, getting your team together, writing. You want to write your marketing materials, so you're writing Facebook posts, you're writing blog posts ahead of time, like you're banking all these things. You're creating a library of content, includes images, it includes your marketing messages, your blog posts, your Facebook posts, your LinkedIn posts, um, press releases, because you really do want to create an ongoing relationship with the press, with media, and that's no longer just newspaper and magazines, but you need to look at bloggers and online news sites, media sites, etc. So part of your time frame now includes the 60 to 90 days that you're building all of those campaign materials, because the last thing you want to do, and you as in anybody, not just Gary, is creating content to promote the campaign during the campaign. That is the worst possible time to be creating content. You want to do as much of the storytelling, have as much of the storytelling in a library ready to go, or in a bank ready to go, so that when you launch your campaign, that those 30 days, ideally what you're doing during those 30 days is you're thanking people, you're sharing aspects of new information that's coming up, new opportunities that show up, you're responding to people's questions, all of that stuff. So it's very in the moment, now based conversations. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Exactly. The real work is done before you launch the campaign.
exactly. But 90% of the work needs to be done before you launch the campaign. So when you're in the campaign, all you're attending to then are the in the moment conversations that are happening. And we have tools. This is more budgeting stuff. This is more of the brainstorming you need to do, more storytelling, video stuff. We're going to just fly by all of that. Go back, budgets. Okay, this is half of of a 3-month planning sheet, but this is where you start to map out what those conversations are going to look like during the campaign.
So what do you write in those lines?
So I should have pulled one of the sheets up, but you can consider this column a single month, and then there's a central column and a right column. So this would be a quarter, 3 months of planning, and each of these sections going across horizontally would be a type of marketing. So this top one might be blogging. So these would be all your main blogging activities that you would do over those 3 months. The second horizontal section might be media relationships. And so you put your key messages or your key activities in here. Another could be in-person events. Many crowdfunding campaigns are starting to do in-person events, and they are wildly successful. So if you're staging, like you and I had talked about, you doing book-storming tours where you were flying into a location, that would be an example of a live promotional event that would be part of your crowdfunding campaign. And you as a pilot flying flying in, who knows what kind of aircraft you could get your hands on to do a book storming tour would be really appropriate for you and your personality and who you are in promoting this campaign. And it would be a blast too, because that's the other thing you want to do is you want to have fun. You want to have fun with this stuff. So the bloggers that you're attracting to cover the story and share your campaign with blogs like the Oatmeal, I mean, a million readers, of course you want them on your side. You want it to be people that really that resonate with you, because this needs to be fun. If it's not fun, when you're done with this, you may be done as a novelist because you're so burned out. You don't want to do that. You want to enjoy every step of the way. Okay, so we have 1 minute left. I want to thank everybody for, sorry to cut you off, Gary. I want to thank everybody for joining us today, and I encourage you to play with that workbook. Get familiar with the different aspects, the different types of content that are incorporated in that book, because that content works on any pledge-based platform in the world. So you'll want to do that. And then everyone who was on the original email list, I think there's 29 people on that list, I will be sending out a thank you newsletter with a link to a thank you page, and on there's this planning tool that I just went over with Gary, and then I'm going to include my massive marketing spreadsheet that I use to plan campaigns for clients. So this is like huge campaigns, and you can adapt this tool to your own uses, to your own campaign. And then I will also set up that Facebook secret group, and you'll be invited to that on that page. And I think, oh, you'll get the deck that I went through, and links to example sites for you to start investigating, start researching what you're going to do for yourself. There's also, if you got value out of this, whether you're here with us now or you're watching this later, these are free to attend, and I do request that if you get value out of it, that you pledge some level of financial support for us in doing these, because we intend to do these ongoingly and eventually turn this into some kind of a crowdfunding broadcast. For now, it's going to follow this kind of a format, and we'll be presenting information and working with at least one person, so you can get a real world experience of what it takes to put these campaigns together. And that's it. We're a minute over. Thank you all for being with us, and we will catch you next time within the next 4 weeks, and we'll let you know when that is on that thank you page as well. All right, that's it. Over and out.